Point of photos. Are you planning to show that?
I do not have access to that here in my home office,
Okay.
and so no, I was not. But
I can
um,
I can see if I can rustle that up.
okay, yes, because photos of the lush Montana lands this time of year goes a long way. It's true. Okay, so it looks like we're recording now. I want to say hi to everyone who's joining us today. My name is Courtney Collins, and I'm the Assistant Director in the Environmental Law Center. And a large part of what I do in the ELC is oversee our summer session program, which is all the classes that are available to take the electives in the summertime. So even though we're here in mid-February, I plan for summer year round. So today we're going to talk about the public lands management class, which is also known as the Montana Field Study. And this is to give interested students more information about this class because it is a class that happens off-site in Montana. And so there's a lot more logistics that go into this class. And so we are going to start with not Chelsea Coleman, but Mr. Coleman. Dave is here with us, who is co-instructor. And that's because Professor Coleman is on another work call back to back. And of course, that one is just wrapping up. So she will be joining us once that call ends. But to start with, we're going to have Dave talk a little bit about the class, and then we'll hear from Chelsea when she comes in. And when that piece of it is done, they're going to pop off the call so that you all can then hear from some of our students. Hi, Peter. Can hear from some of our students who took the class last summer, and then they can tell you unfiltered what the experience is like. So that's the plan. So why don't you go ahead and jump on, Dave, with your thoughts.
All right. Hi, I'm Dave. I want to say first, it's wonderful to see so many people from last year. We miss you and we still think about you. For those of you who are interested in taking this course, I'll say at the beginning, the best thing, I will give you an overview, but the best thing you can do is after we're off is talk to either now or later, talk to someone who has been on it before. It goes a lot further than, that goes a lot further. So I am, if you're still confused, I'm Dave Coleman. You actually are looking for my better half, who's tied up with work stuff. Chelsea is an attorney for the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, who are located, probably about less than 50 miles from where the course is taught. So she spent a lot of time out there. This course, as the name implies, is field-based, but it's policy and law focused. Sometimes some people, this is maybe overly reductive, but some people have characterized this class as a law school class, like in Crazy Creeks, like sitting around a campfire. And there's certainly some truth to that. So expect to read, expect to think, expect to be called on, expect to present. To give you an idea of what a typical day is like, we will be somewhere in the Montana backcountry or backcountry-ish. You'll wake up in your tent. Depending on where you are, you might do some reading. You'll also make yourself breakfast, which will be over probably a backpacking stove. You'll have your breakfast. You might eat at the same time, and then around 8:30 or 9. Is that right? People who've done this before. There's morning class will start. That'll go for a couple hours. There will be a break or two in there. Then we'll break and go go out and do something, usually involving a hike, to see something that's relevant in one or more ways to what you're learning about in class, to see the impacts of different legal and policy decisions on the Western landscape and on the health of the forests there that the Forest Service manages. Then there will be get back. There will be afternoon class, dinner time. Again, you're cooking your own dinner, same way as you cooked breakfast. And then there's very rarely class after dinner. There's usually some kind of presentation. The second week, there are individual presentations from all of you who are students in the class. Sometimes you talk about other things. I am not a lawyer. You sort of get me, I get to sort of tag along. I am a climate scientist and a geologist, so I talk about that a bit, sometimes at night. And then you can stay up as long as you want. We may have a campfire, we may not. It usually depends on fire restrictions, which are always an issue in July. So that's what a typical day looks like. If you spread that out over a week, you go out, we go out into the field on Monday, and we're out for some number of days, and then we're back on Thursday afternoon. I will say it now. On the second week, don't try to leave Missoula, Montana on the Thursday of the second week. Don't do it. It will make many people grumpy at you, and it may not work. A couple brief things, safety-wise. We camp in the backcountry. There are insects. We practice good bear safety. We keep our food and other tasty smelling things far away from us, except when we're using them. And I would say the biggest thing, maybe the biggest non-academic thing to be aware of is there's just, because of the uncertain nature of the summer, particularly with respect to fire in the West in this day and age, we have to be flexible. The first week of last year's class, we ended up going somewhere where we didn't think we were going to be going for the entire first week. We did camp by a beautiful lake despite that. The views were horrible. But yeah, we've learned to be flexible, and we appreciate if all of you help us out with that. I don't know if Courtney, you'll talk about this a little bit more, but because you are traveling to Montana, there's some considerations around travel and then lodging. You can ask questions about those. A lot of those get ironed out down the road. Is that fair, Courtney?
Can I jump in and say a little more about that? Yeah. Okay, so let me back up first, because somebody always asks this, which is, when is the class? And it happens in the last term of the summer session. So the summer session has 4 terms, one after the other, and this is in the last one, term 4. And so those dates are the last week of July through the first week of August. So that would be July 25th through August 4th. And the class happens during the week from Mondays through Thursdays. So there is a weekend in between, and you do have that weekend free. So I believe, oftentimes students will go out and do additional camping or exploring, in addition to the schoolwork that you need to be doing. And that's why Dave is suggesting that you not plan to leave the last day of class, because the last day of class is on a Thursday, and because you're still out in the field, it's not a guarantee like when you're going to be back to home base. So for those of you who are accepted into the class, I'll be conveying more of these logistics, but just understand that you'll arrive the weekend before class starts, and then you'll depart the day after class ends, if that makes sense. And So I said home base, and what that means is that when you're not camping, because you're not camping every single day, what you'll do instead is, what'll happen is the housing will be split. Because what it used to be is you would stay at the dorms at the University of Montana. Done. They have COVID policies, and they have new situations, and basically we get their dorm rooms the first week of class, and then the second week of class, those dorm rooms are no longer available, and it is fine, because I think what we did last year is there is a hostel in the town, so you could use that. You can make your own arrangements for housing too. I know that it's generally preferable to kind of stick together, because what we don't want to do is have like someone on this side of town and someone on that side of town, and then suddenly we're trying to get everyone in the same spot, so then you can take off to the trail, right? So, but there will be options that I will go over, but you'll have a place where you can perhaps store some of your gear on the days that you don't need it. That'll be the dorms and or hostel or whatever housing arrangement comes to be in 2022. So I think that's all I can say about that. Yeah.
Courtney, are we sure that it's going to be the same policies at U of M again?
No, I need to check in with Robin and see if that's true. But she sounded like that's how it was moving forward. So I will certainly be checking to see if that's the case, because I'd love to just have the dorms and be done with it and not split it. But
yeah,
it may be split.
Yeah.
Just think of it as like two new experiences.
You can ask people who actually stayed there, but I heard, at least I heard, the hostel was pretty fun.
Okay. I thought you were going to drop something horrible on me, and I was going to be like, oh my God, I had no idea it was awful.
No.
That's great. Okay.
I don't have anything else. Unless you want me to show pictures. I will say, in terms of being there before, in the middle weekend and possibly after, Missoula is a pretty fun town. It's one of the best towns in the West. Great music. There's often a festival the middle weekend. You can ask people who are there. Some people like to go up to Glacier National Park in the middle weekend, which is always a haul, but everyone who does is always happy that they did it. Yeah, there's lots to do. There's a ton of hiking if you were to just stay in Missoula. We've had people go rock climbing. We've had people, hang out in Missoula, go see friends, lots of stuff. So,
I can jump in with some more logistics too. All right. So, I want to point out that for this class, there is an application because it's limited enrollment. And so we ask everyone to complete, it's a pretty basic application. And it looks like Professor Coleman is moving that application online into Google Docs this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're just in the 21st century, which is very exciting. So that says to me, there'll be a link that I will send out to all students that you can answer. And it's questions like about like, what's your backpacking experience? And what classes have you taken so far? There's no prerequisites for this class, but it's still a good idea to get a sense of, if you've taken any natural resources law classes before, that sort of thing. And then there's this incredibly long waiver that you can read through and then sign off on, and that's your application to this class. Applications will then be reviewed. I think the deadline is, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. I want to say the deadline is sometime in the first week of March.
It was March 7th last year, I think.
Okay, so it's going to be right around there. And again, when I send this information out to all students, we'll have it exactly for you. And so the applications are reviewed pretty quickly after that. So you should know by mid-March if you're in the class or if you're waitlisted for the class. And let me say something about the wait list. So every year, somebody who's accepted turns out that they cannot take the class, and we will always move someone up from the wait list. So if it turns out that you're waitlisted, like, please don't despair. There's still a possibility that you can come into this class, and we will let you know sooner than not. That being said, this class does require a deposit of $125 that if you are accepted into this class, you need to pay that deposit. And then when you take that class, that money then goes towards the cost of your class. So it's not extra money. It wraps into your tuition, right? But we do need that money up front so that if somebody applies to the class, they're accepted to the class, they pay the deposit, and then 2 weeks before class, they say, oh, no, I've decided I'm not going to go out to Montana. Like, we can't have that happening. And the reason why is because there's a lot of logistics and work that go into getting folks out to Montana. So what we found in the past is that if people drop the class last minute, we can't bring people up from the wait list because they can't, get tickets in time and make arrangements in time to come all the way out to Montana. So it's really about being fair to people who really want to take this class. So, so I advise you to please really consider carefully your commitment to taking this class, because if you're in, then you're considered in, barring some act of God. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. There's something else I was going to say. Hold on. Oh, and then folks always ask about financial aid. That is a yes. The financial aid office can distribute additional funds to cover the expenses related to, your travel and meals and things like that associated with this course. I don't have that exact number off the top of my head. Financial aid has it. But whatever it is, my understanding is that it's enough to cover additional expenses for the class. And the veteran students can either confirm or deny that's true, but I hope that that's true. So that's a conversation you can have with financial aid when you're accepted into the class as well. And I guess I would just say, I'm your point person moving forward once you're accepted into the class, as far as letting you know, okay, here's the dorms, like here's who you need to contact to get a dorm room, and okay, let me know when your flight is coming and going so I can share that information with the professors so that everyone's on the same page, and helping to answer any other questions and things like that. And there's a twin site for the class that I think is how most of the information gets distributed from the professors. But I think you all know Twin at this point. And I think that's all.
Okay. Can I tag on to the end of that?
Yeah, keep tagging.
So with respect to the Twin site, there are a number of readings for the course. And because of the nature of the course, you need to bring the readings into the field. Generally, we recommend, and the readings will be made well in advance, because what we generally recommend is that you print them. Some people have experimented with various e-readers and have had varied success. Some people it's worked smoothly. Other people it's given out the first day, and their e-readers given out the first day, and they had to share, beg, borrow, and steal with other folks to get a copy of the readings. So, for what it's worth, readings will be available ahead of time. I guess two other unrelated thoughts. One, in addition to, so the course is taught by Chelsea, who sounds like is still tied up in fixing the irrigation system in northern Montana. So you get, one of the fun things about this class is, in addition to Chelsea, you get a lot of other people. Well, hopefully that's fun for you. Last year, the course was co-taught by Ben. Gosh, what's Ben's last name? I should know that.
Leone? Ben Leone?
Yes, Ben Leone. Thank you,
Yeah.
Courtney. Ben. So Ben's an attorney for the Bureau of Land Management. He used to work for a firm in Denver, and before that in Maine. He did a lot of coastal stuff, which he loves to talk about dearly. Ben, we can't confirm it yet, but I think Ben may be helping to co-teach the course again this year. I think you can ask folks about that. There are also a number of guest speakers for the course who come in. There was a tribal attorney last year. There was an economist. There, I don't think we talked to someone from the Forest Service anymore. Who else? I'm missing a guest speaker. Anyway, there are a number of other folks who you hear from really different perspectives on managing Western lands. So the last thing I was going to ask is maybe to move this into time for questions. Can I briefly ask folks who were on the class last year to maybe just briefly share a couple of things? One, something important that you think other people should know about the class, maybe something that Courtney and I have forgotten, or just something that was very salient for you. And then also something that you really, really enjoy, that you really, really liked about the class. So, Peter, I'm going to start with you.
Awesome. Hi. How's it going, Dave?
This great. How are you?
Good. Sorry. Been a while. Anyways,
Stand up
so
moment.
if I had to go, I would say one the biggest thing, that you don't get in a law classroom setting is witnessing what the land is, and that's so much to, I feel like, understanding the law. And so it was really like, I just want to, for the first part, I just want to emphasize how cool of an opportunity it is to go out into the places that you're going to be learning about how they're managed and be in those places, because it really just formulates a cool array of discussions. And it imparts it's sort of like something on you. I don't know what that is. It's probably different for you than it is for me, but it's all really cool and highly recommended. Maybe that was the good part first, but then if I had to say anything, it would probably have to be just be conscious of your ability to hike and tolerate dry heat. It's not for everyone, and especially with the fires, that was kind of surprising. For me, I never have struggled too much with asthma, but it comes and goes. So keeping that in mind is important.
Yeah, just to frame that, last year we spent a lot of time chasing a place that wasn't full of smoke. That's how we ended up at the beautiful lake. So, some place that had an AQI that was not ridiculously bad. So, thanks, Peter.
Do you want to pass it off? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, what was something we liked, and then something
something important that you think you would have, either you wished you had known or you feel other people should know, even if you knew.
Oh gosh. I'm gonna think about that one. But something I really liked was having Dave around to talk about geology and the climate, especially the second week when we were kind of talking about it. I still tell everyone about the bitter roots and the jelly sandwich model, and that's like my fun fact everywhere I go.
There are a lot of those detachment faults in the West, but
something, I guess, being prepared for all weather, I guess, especially in Montana, even though it's July, it is going to get cold it should get cold at night, I guess I should say. And storms can roll in fast in the mountains.
Yeah. I would say it's normal in a normal year, whatever normal means these days. It's common for people to be wearing puffy jackets and hats and gloves when they're reading and making breakfast in the morning, and then be like doing their reading in the afternoon, sitting on a rock in the swimsuit that they just came out of the lake in. So, yeah. Thanks. Who are you going to tag next?
I'm going to tag Dom.
Hello, everyone. Good to see y'all. All right. So I'm just going to piggyback off of what is said for the, important to know, and just kind of emphasize, like, know your ability. And, even though everybody, varies on ability, but just be comfortable. You are in the backcountry. You got to do your business in the backcountry. I'm gonna go between these points. Another big awesome thing was, you go in 1 week just knowing a few people and like who am I going to be camping next to, and then the second week, we're all like one big happy family, and you're sharing shovels, and it gets a little weird, but in a fun way. But but just know your ability, be comfortable with cooking out of a testerno and a tiny flame in a pot, and know you're going to probably have to eat dry food for a little bit, and just be prepared. That's all I could really say. But one of my biggest highlights was probably, oh shoot, seeing the different aspects and the wildlife area, the big W. When we went through that, burned forest, and really saw how all of the readings we've been doing just came into like one, that hike. That was just really huge. And I can't emphasize it enough. This is just one in a lifetime experience, especially at a law school. You don't get this often. You make good friends out of it. We still got a group chat going, so it's fun. Lindsay, think you're last.
Saving the best for last. No, just kidding. So yeah, I mean, what everyone else said, I would say for things that I guess I wish I would have known, it's not necessarily related to the class per se, but apparently car rentals go really, really, really fast in Montana. So if you were thinking about renting a car for the weekend in between, the second you get into the class, you should look into that. Although Peter, they were creative and they rented a rental truck, I think. So that was a little workaround. And then me and two of the people in the class, we went to Glacier National Park over the weekend, and we took a bus from Missoula to a town closer to Glacier, and we're able to rent a car up there and then drive the rental car and drop it off in Missoula. So you can get kind of creative, but it's good not to have to be creative and just be able to rent a car. Because literally when I started looking, the only car available was like $1,000 a day. And then in the town of Missoula, there is like a FedEx where you can print stuff off, and there is an REI to like get last minute things too. I mean, obviously try and bring as much as you can, but just that was something good to know. And then also, I mean, we did car camping. So I thought for like, there wasn't a time where we had to carry every single thing we brought on our backs. We could keep a lot of things in the car. So just something to note, like when you're thinking about what to pack and stuff, because obviously you can only bring so much if you're flying. And then favorite part, I mean, I don't know. I took the class because I wanted to go to Montana. So I succeeded. It was great. And it was actually my first in-person class because all last year I did my classes virtual. So it was really awesome to be learning in nature next to this beautiful lake. So my classes this year have been kind of disappointing in comparison to that part, but it is work. Like you're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to meet a lot of great people. You get to go hiking and explore, but there's a lot of readings. Like I did better in the morning. So I would have to wake up at like 5 a.m., finish my readings. We'd have class, and then you do more readings after class at the end of the day. So it is a 3-credit class. So it is work, but it's the most fun work I've done in law school to date. So.
So I just want to thank you for thank the 4 of you. Sorry, that's where you are on our screen. 2 things. One, I just want to emphasize, several people talked about knowing your ability. I want to emphasize that we've had people take this class who are ultra runners, and we've had people take this class who have never been backpacking before or have very limited experience. The person who had very limited experience in the outdoors put in a non-trivial amount of time getting ready for it. But it really is open to anyone who's willing to engage and get ready to be able to do the things that you need to do to see those landscapes. And the other thing, and I can introduce the actual professor for the course.
Hi, so nice to see all of you, and from last year. It's good to see your faces again, and I'm so sorry to all of you for being late. Most meetings you can kind of leave or whatever, but I'm an attorney for the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, which are located just like an hour. Their reservation is just about an hour north of Missoula, which is where the class is held, and I had my second presentation today with council, and when you're on with tribal council, you can't really leave. And our meeting, which was supposed to start earlier, was pushed back. So you just sort of have to be flexible. So I thank you to all of you for being patient, and yeah, I really appreciate it. And my name is Chelsea Coleman, and I'm the professor for the Montana Public Lands course, and also an attorney for the these tribes in Montana, as I just mentioned. And I've been doing this class for, oh gosh, I've maybe,
We're gonna date ourselves here.
I don't know, it could be close to 10 years now. This could be the 10th year, including the year, probably. Anyways,
Yeah, it's
a while. And I love it. It's a highlight of the year, and it's wonderful to really just get to spend a lot of good time with students in a pretty unusual situation. And yeah, so I guess I could also say I've, apart from working with the tribes, I have a pretty extensive background in water law and policy, and also public land management. So two really important things out in the Western United States and also the Eastern US. But yeah, so I think, should we just open up to questions? Courtney?
So yeah, I was just going to say, Professor Coleman, hi. First of all, we spent a lot of time going over a lot of the logistics of like, what does a typical day look like? And, here's how you get there, and here's where you're staying there, and things like that. So I think that we are just about ready to open up to some questions. But before we do, I wondered if perhaps you could talk a little bit more about the substance of the class, like what are the topics that students will be learning about, the subjects that students will be learning about. And then after that, I would recommend that if anyone has questions for Dave or Chelsea, you could ask them the questions next. And then when they have satisfied your questions, I'm going to have them step off this call, so then we can finish up with questions for Dom, Carolyn, and Lindsay. Peter had to step out. But then if there's any other questions on like the student side of things, we can ask those last and get some honest answers. Okay.
Great. Okay, so as you probably all know, the class is called I think it's called the Public Land Management Field Seminar. So it is focused on public lands, and there's a lot of public lands, but we focus on federal public lands. And even within federal public lands, there's a lot of different agencies that manage the various different types of federal public lands. And so this class does focus on the national forests, which are administered by the U.S. Forest Service. Not exclusively, we do talk about BLM, Bureau of Land Management, BLM lands, and Fish and Wildlife Service, but we really primarily focus on the U.S. Forest Service. And so that means you sort of start with the foundation of the laws, the organic acts, if you will, that created the national forests and the U.S. Forest Service. And look at those and the regulations, of course, that go with those laws. And then there are a lot of laws, as you may know, that apply to federal land management agencies and just more broadly. So we look at the Endangered Species Act, NEPA, the Wilderness Act. What are some other acts that we look at? I see laughing, but anyways, yeah. So you kind of get a good sense of what the Forest Service, how they manage the national forest, what laws that apply to them and that they have to abide by, and if you were, say, working for an environmental NGO or something and wanted to sue the Forest Service, how you might go about doing that. So you really get a sense for how the forests are managed, which laws apply. And then, I think, of course, we that's one side, but of course, there's so many, what should I say, issues, policy issues, challenges, all the challenges facing management of the national forest, which, there is, of course, a legal framework, but then there is, broader policy considerations. So we have discussions, and that's part of why the we try to get people to talk who aren't just lawyers, and also a broader group of lawyers. So we have Dave gives a lot of science background. We often have a ornithologist who's he's like specializes in fire ornithology or fire ecology. Thank you. And someone who works kind of on thinking about rural communities and economic impacts, sort of job availability in rural communities and those challenges of moving away from a resource heavy, focus of logging, or we don't really talk about mining, but that's another example, towards tourism or more conservation friendly, activities. And forest fire is a huge challenge facing the Forest Service, and not just the Forest Service. And you get even down all the way into like who, does the Forest Service have any say over, who builds where? Not really. So how does the Forest Service deal with that? So legal side, but also lots of discussions about the many challenges that public land managers face, particularly in the West. So I think that gives a pretty good overview. And we have also, I would just also say, we've been starting off also with kind of a recognition that, the public lands, pretty much all of the public lands, are the ancestral territories of the Native people of this country. So looking at how that plays a role as well, and how management agencies might be shifting to sort of work more with tribes or in different ways with tribes is, I guess, another part of the class that's becoming more robust part of the class. So I think that's mostly it, unless anyone else felt there was something that was really important that I didn't mention, but I think that's kind of the substance that we really focus on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Why don't we open it up to any questions for Dave and Chelsea at this time? If you want to raise your hand, you can be called on. And then if you are unable to speak on camera, you can also put your question in the chat. And so I see that we do already have some questions in the chat. The first one is there any other financial requirement besides the deposit? As in, do we need all the camping gear? So the financial requirements include the tuition, of course. The deposit is put towards your tuition. So it's really just tuition. And then as far as camping gear, I believe, Chelsea, I think, do you give them like a list of gear that you recommend? Okay, so there'll be a list of gear that you should have for this class. And in the past, I have seen some student groups go onto Twin and talk to each other and be like, hey, do you have a camp stove I could borrow? Okay, I'm going to use so-and-so's camp stove. Or, hey, do you want to share a tent or whatever the equipment is that's being shared? So you can do the class can do some coordinating that way amongst yourselves as far as any kind of gear that could be shared along the way. As far as what the financial aid amount is and what the budget is, like I had said earlier, that's a number that the financial aid gives out. So the financial aid office has that amount. I'm sorry, I don't have that, but they can tell you what that amount is. And my understanding is that it covers the expenses involved in this class. So there's that. And then there is a question about, is there a lot of, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I mean, I'm not sure what exactly that student is asking, but, there is, of course, you have to get there to Montana. So there's a, plane flight, or if you drive your car. And then we do, I probably already mentioned, camp out 3 nights each week, but, and I guess we're not sure but there is some cost to staying in Missoula for, a few days before, one or 2 days before, somewhere, whatever you decide to do for the weekend in between, and then however long you stay at the end, and some, but I think those are the 2 primary additional costs. And if a rent a car if you want to go somewhere in the middle weekend, but
Thank you. Go ahead. Okay, so then the next part of this question is, will there be a lot of reading material, and is there internet available out in the field That's a no. I already know that's a no. But how much reading material is there?
A substantial amount for a 3-credit course, but we also try to recognize that there's, yeah, we try not to have any extraneous, unnecessary readings.
Fair enough. Okay, any other questions?
I would say ask someone who took the class previously how much reading they thought there was. Thanks, Lindsay.
Don't be shy, now's your time. Can we discuss more about the physical requirements? For example, how far will we hike per day generally?
So I would say we do one, it has varied each year, and I'm not sure if you got a chance to talk about this, but I think the longest we've done about, it's probably a 9-mile hike that one day. We did 2 years ago. So do you know how long the hike was up to that? We usually do about one pretty decent hike a week, I would think, and then some shorter day hikes. Yeah. But I think based on other people who've come in, we're not rushing or running, so we, want to make it so that, if you want to, it helps to do some walking ahead of time, but you don't have to be in great physical. You should be able to do it. It's not so arduous that I think we can talk more, Grace, specifically about that, if that would help. And then I see someone else if it's primarily backpacking or car camping. It used to be primarily backpacking. We have shifted recently to car camping for the time being. We'll see. I think we'll do that again this year.
Seems highly likely.
But we try to find locations that are not just like in a massive campground with other people, so that you still feel it's like it's in a remote place. I don't know if Dave mentioned it, but one of the things that's become more of a challenge recently is just, did you talk about? Okay, so fire and the need to sort of be flexible. The place that we had stayed in every year was off limits because it was so close to a fire last year. So we had to find somewhere new, and we're looking for the place with the least amount of smoke. So I think they're getting more snow this year, which is really good. And we'll hope for, a good low fire season this summer, but you never know. So no, there's a question. Is there any prerequisite course required? No, there's no prerequisite course required. I mean, of course, you'll find that a lot of the things we talk about, you'll probably cover in other classes, NEPA and Endangered Species Act, but this, and you might, probably the closest course to this is a natural resources law course, but that is a more broad survey course. This is really focused on the national forest. So, but you can do all of it without any prerequisite.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is this course? Oh, yeah. Open to online MELP student. Yes, I thank you for answering that. But we'd love to have online students there. I strongly encourage online MELP students to come. They often are. Yeah, I think everyone really likes it, but online MELP students really seem to enjoy the course. So
enjoy other human beings in the flesh.
Okay, any other questions for our professors? I do want to leave time to have questions for the students, but now's a good time. The capacity is 12 students.
Right. That means.
Okay, going once. Oh, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Again, yep. There's my. There you go. You can just email me there. And I'm, especially since I missed the whole first half of this, totally happy to talk with any of you who are interested further. So definitely please feel free to reach out.
Okay, then I think we're going to say farewell to the Colwins. Thank you so much for being here today. It was good to see you too, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much, Courtney, and thanks from last year. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Hope we can catch up more. Okay, be well.
Okay, bye. Okay, so we have just about a little over 10 minutes for any further conversation that we might want to have with Dom, Carolyn, and Lindsay, who have taken this class last year and can share their intimate thoughts about what really goes on in Montana. So again, I would say if there's any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or raise a hand. And then if the three of you have anything that you want to share, I know that David asked you some prompting questions earlier, but just kind of off the cuff, if there's anything that you want to let the students know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you could share that now too. Have at it. And I promise what happens in this chat will stay in this chat. And perhaps you can say, go on the record and say if you're available, Dom, Carolyn, and Lindsay, to talk further with students outside of this, if people maybe want to speak to you outside of this area, if it's okay to thumbs up if they can email you, perhaps. Yeah, okay. So now you know how to get hold of folks. Any questions, any comments?
I'll go ahead and say a couple things, off the cuff while we wait for questions, maybe spark some questions. So in regards to, just getting this, if you are accepted into this course, definitely get the ball rolling quick. You still have time, but, contact, I don't know, Courtney, do you send out a list of, I don't remember, do you send out a list of the fellow students that are accepted?
Do I send a list to everyone? I think I do a group email as opposed to like individual. Well. So I think yes, and then of course twin. So yes.
Yeah. So everybody's so nice that we've met on the trip, but reach out to your fellow students, ask about if you need gear, or you want to share gear, tents, this and that, but also ask about housing. Like a few students, we got together and we booked up those hot stool rooms. It is July in Montana. All sports enthusiasts are going to be crazy. The hikers, the mountain bikers, the campers, the fishers, the hunters. It's going to be busy. So just get on your stuff quick. Get contacting with some friends, meet some people. I think it was Peter reached out to me, and I don't even know who he was. And we just right off the bat figured out we were both going to stay at the hostel. So then it turned into 6 of us at the hostel, right, Lindsay? I think there was a few of us at the hostel. The power went out, and we had a candlelit scary story time, which was fun. So don't be afraid to ask other people. What else? The budget's gonna be tight, but maybe stay in Missoula. Missoula is an awesome town. It even spurred me to want to move to Montana and find a job there. It's just so lively, so much fun. They do free concerts out in the park. There's some good food. There's some cool people. It's a sight to see. Even though Glacier is not too far and it's fun, but definitely budget. It was tight for me. I don't know if it was tight for other people, but if you want to go, make it happen. Just put your ducks in a row, so to say. I don't know, Caroline, do you have anything else to say? If I missed anything.
Yeah, I guess also for the weekend, I would just consider you are camping during the week. So I chose to stay in Missoula just so I could have some time to like do some laundry, sleep in a bed, have air conditioning. And I love camping. but it was also nice to have some inside time. Would also be my consideration, as well as being a little bit cheaper. But yeah.
So we do have a question in the chat. The question is, what inspired you all to decide to do the course? So maybe Carolyn, if you want to answer what inspired you to take this course, and then pass that question to the next person.
Yeah, so I am an online MELP student, whoever brought that up. So I was really excited about being able to actually meet people and take class in person, which I think everyone was, because last year everyone was online. But I actually live in Utah and work for an outdoor recreation company. So kind of recreation, public land is kind of the direction I want to go with my MELP. So obviously this was very intertwined with that. Lindsay, you want to hit it?
Sure. So I kind of mentioned this earlier, but one of my bucket list items is to go to all 50 states and all 7 continents, and I didn't think I'd get to do much traveling while in law school. So Montana was a state I had not been to, so that's what initially sparked me. But the class is really interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know much about public lands before taking the class, and I didn't take many. Like I took basic 1L classes before I went, and I did one energy class before this. So you don't need to have a background in energy law. As going back to like people talking about skill level and physical requirements, I am not the most in shape person, and I was able to do it. I also, hiking wise, I like to stop and take in the scenery and like take pictures. I'm not one of those people that, okay, we need to get to the end point the fastest we can. And I felt like with our group, there were a lot of different people who were from one end to my end. And so like the Chelsea's there, Dave's there. I think Chelsea's sister was someone who came with us. And then Ben was mentioned before. So there's multiple like professor like people, and they like kind of stagger themselves. So you're always with like an adult, even though I mean we're all adults, but so they do a really good job of that. And I never felt super pressured to be like, okay, I need to be at the head of the group leading the way, and I can take my time and do what's best for me from a physical standpoint. And also, I mean, you're paying to be there, so I actually wanted to take in the site. So from a physical standpoint, if I can do it, anyone should be able to do it, if that makes anyone feel better. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Yeah, I've been to Montana a few times and just seen the course. I was like, I need to do this just for the love of the environment there, but also that is the area of law I want to go into: public lands, land management, whatever's tied to that. And I'm also from the West, so very familiar with that kind of territory. And it just was a nice, I saw the class as just a great learning opportunity for, more knowledge of where I'm from, and also just to kind of connect back to my roots because I've been out here so long. So it was definitely the best choice I've made. One of the best only field classes. It was either that or Cuba. So yeah, it's a wonderful class. You get to be out there with some great people. Dave and Courtney are honestly amazing and just so sweet. Ben is a kooky, smart dude, and just you're not going to go wrong by not taking this course.
Yeah, no, it was great. And like I said before too, I was able to go to Glacier in between, and then you do have a final in it, but it's not due for like 2 or 3 weeks after the class is over. And so I was able to go to Wyoming after the class concluded too, and like take some time to relax before actually having to work on the final, because that's a take-home final. But and it was a challenging, like it wasn't it's a final representation of what a 3-credit law school class is. So just because you have all this fun in Montana and you make all these great connections, and even with the professor, it's going to be a real exam, even though, I mean, you can use all your notes and it's open book, open everything. And like I said, it's take home, but it was like 5 or 6 detailed questions. I was like, what is this? Like, we couldn't have stopped with the first essay. So, but if you do the readings, and obviously when you don't have internet, I mean, you're kind of forced to pay attention when you're in class, but you also want to, because I mean, there's also only 12 of you, but so if you pay attention to class, do the readings, you'll be fine with the final and the presentation. And I don't know if you saw in the chat, I actually, not knowing anything about public lands before, am writing my law review note on public lands and renewable energy development on that. So it can help you in other classes as well.
And piggybacking kind of off of what Lindsay was talking about, like it is, you get out of that first week and you're like, maybe this will all stick in my brain. You know, it's 3 credits. You're taking in a lot of information and you're reading a lot, but at least in my opinion, it's all super interesting. I mean, we had like recreation day and we'd have wilderness day. So it's kind of divided like that. But it's a lot, but it does stick. And you have your notes there for the final too.
Bouncing off that final and kind of just class material, be creative. If you're accepted, you know, and you see that list of reading, be creative. I wish Peter was here to talk about what he did, but don't do what I did. Don't put your all like 50 something stacks of paper in manila folders. You know, make a tiny book. Peter made a tiny book that was amazing. The script was small and I couldn't read it, but he wasn't struggling when he, had to backpack in, and I had, I think 20 pounds of pages in my bag. So it's 3 credits. Yeah.
Okay, we're in our final minute, so I just want to let folks know that after this recording is done, I'm going to figure out how to distribute it and then send that around along with the link to the application form. So if you're interested in applying, you will have time to do that before the deadline at the start of next month. So look out for that email in the next day or so. And thank you so much to our students for joining us back again from the class here and for being willing to talk with the rest of you moving forward via email, which is in the chat. So look for how to contact them there. And thank you again for that. And one of these years, I'm going to come with on this class because I hear nothing but the best things about this class. So yeah. I'm gonna go think about that now. So thanks again for everyone for being here. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thanks, Courtney. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.